So I didn't do a reaction for this one, and in hindsight, I really should have, because I was freaking out and crying the whole friggin' time. Would have made for a fun reaction, but alas, here we are. With that said, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly ReZero Season 2 discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about episode 15, Otto Suin / A Reason to Believe. But before we get into the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. But without further ado, get yourself a box of tissues, because you're probably gonna cry as we talk about this week's episode of Re-Freaking Zero. Oh man, I'm not gonna do the I don't even know where to start. I do know where to start, because this episode is very pleasantly basically split into two halves, and you would think that splitting an episode into two halves means that they don't have as much time to devote to one particular part of the episode, and that's just blatantly not true, because both parts are given just the exact amount of time they need. Both halves of this episode, rather, given just the amount of time that they need to properly flesh out their particular story, right? The first half is obviously about Otto, the second half is about Subaru and Emilia. And we're gonna start by talking about Otto. The Subaru and Emilia stuff, I'm gonna scream when we get to it, because I'm a shippy dude, and I know some people ship Subaru and Rem. That's not me. I'm an Emilia Subaru guy, but that's not what we're gonna talk about right now. What we're going to talk about right now is best boy, bestest boy, Otto. Oh my god, Otto has such a good story this week, right? Otto, last week ending with Otto just being so you want to, you want to do this? Basically giving Garfield, the ultimatum, all right, well, I'm here to stall, bitch, so that's what I'm going to do, right? And of course, Garfield, our boy Garfield, he don't take kindly to that. Lasagna boy don't appreciate the sudden ego boost that Otto has gotten after being crowned best boy by basically everybody. I think at this point, everybody just agrees that Otto is in fact best boy, if you're not counting Garfield or Subaru. And I love both, I love all three of these lads, but Otto is clearly best boy. Otto really made play for best boy this week. Even when Garfield punches him, right? I'm you get your hands off my best boy, other best boy. You know what I mean? I was just I'm conflicted. But when he punches him, and Otto's smart enough to grab the jewel, right? And he's you looking for this? Right? And Garfield's you son of a bitch. When he ends up in the hole, he's ooh. And then he gets the bugs to attack Garfield, and then Otto just books it. Right? And it's that's so clever. And this is where we start to kind of get into the flashback, right? So we get this whole flashback with Otto basically diving into his past with his family. And first of all, Otto's house was cool. Otto's hometown looks dope, right? And so Otto basically gets this flashback where we see his family, and we see a younger Otto sort of trying to understand what is happening, because as a kid he's gifted with this divine protection, right? And this divine protection basically allows him to talk to animals, right? We knew this. So we see Otto sort of struggling with this, and he's the sounds of his own family are muffled by the sounds of everything happening around him, and he can't understand them yet. So as a kid, it's basically he's deaf, and it's watching him struggle with that. And I'm sure there might even be some people who might have had a similar life experience, not so much hearing everything, but just being deaf and trying to come to grips with that. And he can hear, right? He obviously hears so much. He has the Superman effect from Man of Steel, where he hears so many things that he might as well be deaf, because he can't clearly hear what's going on around him. He can hear everything. So even when Otto's parents show up and his mom tries to be Otto, why don't you go play with the others? He can't hear her. So he just kind of blinks and stares at her. And they, as parents, obviously this is soul crushing, because they realize okay, there's something going on and I can't help you. And as a parent, that's gotta be soul crushing, right? To not be able to help your kid. So they get doctors to look at Otto, and they don't know what's going on with him. Nobody's super sure. And then Otto's older brother is the one who thinks well, maybe if we can get Otto to learn to write, right? So if we can get Otto to write things down, we might be able to, like, better understand what's going on with him. So Otto, like, basically writes on a sheet of paper and gives it to the mom, and the mom's like, oh my god, and, like, we can communicate, and hugs him, and that's when Otto cries. And, like this is, like, the first time Otto says that this is the first time he's cried since he was, like, born. So that moment sort of changed him, and he was slowly from then on out starting to be able to understand what the noises were and actually be able to, like, talk to the different animals and bugs and stuff like that. And we even see that cool moment where he's just like, they say it's gonna rain, and then it starts to rain, right? And the brother's like, that's awesome! But again, much like Man of Steel, the brother's like, but you might want to keep that to yourself. And in fairness, like, I kind of get it, right? Because, like, they, you know, other people might be freaked out. They might want to abuse that power. Like, I get why the brother's like, listen, you might want to keep that just between us, you know, like, just for, you know, for your own sake. And so he does for a bit, and then he basically pulls a whole, like, Plagues of Egypt, right? Like, where he just, like, summons bugs, right? But not on purpose, not to, like, attack people, but it's just, you know, like, a big swarm of bugs comes and they sort of, like, swarm the city by accident. And they call him, like, Bug Freak or whatever, and Otto's like, huh? And I'm like, Bug Catcher Otto wants to battle. No, but that's not what I thought, although I'm thinking it now. A Pokemon Dream Team, which is something I haven't done in a while, on Otto. Bug Catcher Otto. That might be fun. Anyway, but Otto basically, you know, gets called this for a while, and then it gets to a point where Otto actually decides to track down, like, this, because this dude, like, yells at him saying, like, I know you were with my girlfriend, and Otto's like, do I look like I was with your girlfriend, right? Like, and he doesn't say it like that, but I was thinking that, like, Otto's a sweet boy. Does he look like the type of dude who would help your girlfriend cheat on you? Come on, dog. But Otto ends up finding out through all the animals in town that this girl is, she belongs to the streets. And she says, like, kill him when he reveals this. And since that was the daughter of the most popular dude in their town, Otto has to leave and is really very sad. And I felt really sad for Otto. He basically has to hightail it the hell out of there. And that's where he starts to become, you know, Otto the traveling merchant, right? And he says that that whenever he cries, it's like a rebirth is happening, right? So the first time he cried was when he was born. The second time was when he was able to communicate with his family, and then the third time he cried was when he was saved from friggin' Betelgeuse. When he was caught in the caves, they end up, like, freeing him, like the big beast dude. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He, like, frees Otto, and Otto starts to cry, right? Because he's just so happy to be alive. And that was the second rebirth, and his first rebirth was his first rebirth, quote unquote, was when he was born, obviously. So the second rebirth was there in the caves, just happy to be alive, and ultimately leading him to meeting Subaru. In the events that, you know, we see throughout the show. And that was the moment that he's like, all right, so this was my rebirth, and realizing that I'm happy to be alive, and I'm gonna help my friends. And right now, that friend is Subaru, and I am his friggin' best friend, if anything, and I'm gonna protect him, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to stay alive and protect my friend. And, like, hell yes, Otto. Hell yes, dude. Otto's a king. And I will hear no arguments. This friggin' character, like, I loved him, like, way back. I loved him even when he was introduced, honestly. And even when he was kind of a shithead back then, I still loved Otto then. And I loved Otto in the first half of Season 2, and I love him just as much so far in the second half of Season 2. And it's just so, like, he's just such a good dude. And the chase scene with Garfield as Real Eyes starts to blast, I'm like, yes! Like, this is the god sauce. This is the greatness, right? Like, the chase is so great, and friggin' my girl Ram, like, everybody's like, why do you like Ram? Ram clearly better. Ram best girl! Like, Ram showing up and just ora-ing the shit out of beast form Garfield. I'm like, that's why. That's why she's my girl, goddammit. Like, Ram is great. the Ram, Otto, Garfield, OT3 breaking my heart because they keep fighting. I just want these three to be friends, goddammit. But yeah, it's a lot. Like that whole scene, Realize playing during the chase, Ram showing up for the big save, and then at the very tail end of the episode, Garfield like ending the episode by confronting Subaru and Emilia, and he's like clearly beaten up, and I'm a little nervous because I'm like, I don't see Otto and Ram, and my boy covered in a lot of blood, and I don't know if all of it's his. So I'm like, are we about to loop? Please no, not after everything Subaru and Emilia just worked through. I hope we're not gonna loop or something. I don't know. I hope they're okay, because if not, then yeah, I'm gonna have to say we're gonna have to force a loop if they're not. But yeah, that's the Otto part. That's a lot of craziness. Hey there, friendly reminder that you're not actually an isekai protagonist and only have one chance to hit that sub button. Why don't you make it right now? Thank you. Let's get into the second half. Let's get into a reason to believe. And this is why I say this episode's like, this might be like this is gonna be the episode to beat for episode of the season, as far as I'm concerned. Like, we already have like, okay, this episode was top tier, every other episode has to measure up to this one. And a reason to believe, like, the second half, where you get the Subaru confession of like, I love you. Like, and I believe in you. And I believe in you because I love you because I believe in you. It's cyclical, right? And that whole scene, I was like, yes! And when he's going over it, like, I love your silver hair, the purple jewels you have for eyes, like, I love every part of you, and I believe in you, and I'm going through all of this for you. And again, the legendary writing, like, the character dialogue of Tape, where, like, Emilia's like, that's selfish, right? Like, that's incredibly selfish. Right? Like, you think that I like watching you suffer through all this, and why? Because you believe in me? Like, you don't believe in me, you love me, there's a difference. Right? And Subaru's like, no, I believe in you because I love you. I love you because I believe in you. It's cyclical. Right? Whereas Emilia's like, screw you! Right? And she throws it back in his face, and she's like, all I asked you to do was just stay with me while I slept, and you couldn't even do that! You're a liar! And Puck's a liar! Everybody's lying to me! Right? And, like, from her point of view, I kind of get it, right? Like, I do kind of get why Emilia's acting the way she is. A part of me's just like, Emilia, my girl, I don't like seeing you like this, but I totally get why you're being like this. And again, that's just the brilliant writing of Tape, where, like, Subaru is, like, freaking screaming at her, like, what do you mean you don't understand? And Emilia's like, what do you mean you don't understand? Right? Like, they're having, like, a straight-up married couple argument. Right? And I'm like, of course they're having a married couple argument. And you can tell the difference between an argument and a married couple argument. And they are having a married couple argument right now. And to me, I'm like, yeah, there's a reason for that. It's because the ship is friggin' God tier. And one day, it better become canon. And Subaru, like, and Emilia have this whole back and forth. And what I love is that, like, every time Emilia calls him selfish, I'm like, yes, he is, because he's in love with you. And you want to know what? And I think, like, this is the thing that people forget, right? Everyone thinks, like, love is super sweet and happy and fun and bouncy and wonderful. And it is. It very much is. It is, like, 90% that. But it's also selfish. Loving someone is selfish, right? Like, we learned this from Vinland Saga, right? And love is selfish. Your love is selfish. You know what I mean? Like, that is, when you love somebody, you are being selfish because you are putting them above everybody else, and you are thinking of how much you love them almost above their own feelings. And everybody does that shit. Like, I do that, you do that. Everybody is guilty of loving something too much, right? Like, loving something or someone too much. And I think that it's important that they nailed that, like, love is selfish, right? But it also enables you to do great things. And especially to go above and beyond, to go plus ultra for the people you love. To quote Hercules, love makes everybody do crazy things. And love makes Subaru do incredibly crazy things, but Emilia too. And I do genuinely think that Emilia will develop, like, I mean, she clearly has feelings for Subaru. I don't care what anybody says, but like I think that they will get together at some point. I just don't necessarily know. I mean, they might, and I've probably been showing this picture the whole time. I don't even really want to show another picture, if I'm honest. They freaking kiss! They kiss! I lost my mind! Like, do you see? Do you see why I said I should have reacted to this? I was like, do you understand? Look at me in the eyes. Well, you can't, but pretend like you can look at me in the eyes. Do you understand why I was hype? When I tell you that I was an Emilia Subaru shipper, do you understand why I was hype when they kissed? I was hype. It finally happened. I lost my mind. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful scene. It was a beautiful friggin' scene. It's beautiful. I'm gonna keep repeating myself. But like, yeah, I was so happy. This episode was so incredibly good. Like, and friggin' Mama Subaru. Like, Subaru's mom coming in clutch. Like, just saying, what matters isn't how you start or what happens in the middle, it's how it ends. So with Emilia being terrified that she's going to lose herself, as she knows herself when she gets these memories, and Subaru's like, it doesn't matter where you started or what's happening in the middle, it's how it's gonna be how it ends. And you're not going anywhere, and you're gonna see this thing through, you and me together, right? And you're gonna find the thing, your most cherished feeling, and I hope it's for me, right, Subaru? And I was like, I hope it's for you too, Subaru. But you're gonna find it, and I think you're gonna find it in those memories that are coming back. And I was like, this is such a beautiful scene. It's so great. And I just, again, like I said, this is the episode to beat. This is 1,000% the episode to beat. With that said, everybody, I'm gonna wrap up today's video here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that sub button, ring that bell, set notifications to all. Let all of AnyTube know that you're here. And before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all of these beautiful names. And hey, if you'd like to join these beautiful people, there are 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button to get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course, your name scrolling past the screen here. Or you can check out that Patreon link in the description. Either way, super appreciated. But yes, my friends, that is it. I really should have reacted to this. I feel bad that I didn't. I was like freaking out this whole episode. Crazy episode. But thank you again to the T Squadron. Until next time, you stay classy and you wash your dang hands.